If you're looking to build an ideal practice, it is imperative that you align yourself with a right fit affiliation. If you're on the move or you're considering reevaluating your current affiliation, then these are the top 5 things that you must consider when evaluating right fit affiliations. Let's get started.
This is The Rare Advisor, a show for financial advisors who want to build and grow their practice through the use of a business model supercharged by recurring and repeatable events. The Rare Advisor is brought to you by the Advisor Protocol Consulting Team at USA Financial.
Welcome back to another edition of The Rare Advisor. I'm your host, Aaron Grady, and with me again is my friend, mentor, and traveling companion, the Chief Practice Management Officer at USA Financial, Steve Phillips. Thanks again, Steve, for stepping in.
Oh, thanks for having me back, brother. Always, always, always. I don't think I get invited. At least 2 in a row. This is great. We just really need to just keep it rolling.
Hey, we got to save, we got to save room on the bus for a few other people.
Right, well. Exactly.
So the reason I asked you back today is in our last Rare video, we were talking about the idea around building the ideal life or the ideal practice. And through that conversation, we identified a lot of important factors, 4 key elements that should be really weighed when building an ideal practice: ideal clients, ideal practice size, ideal strategic partners, and then ideal affiliation. Mm-hmm. But it was that last part that really kind of spun us off into a little deeper conversation, which we didn't really get to spend time with. And I think it deserves the attention that it does. Especially with all of the, as you said in our last video, all the M&A that's going on, all of the consolidation in the industry, all of the movement that's going on, it makes sense that if advisors are out there right now and they're considering affiliating with a new organization, maybe they're thinking about M&A changes, maybe they're just looking to affiliate, to evaluate their own current affiliation, whether it's a broker dealer, an RIA, what have you. There's a handful of things that I believe strongly in that need to be weighed. And so I would probably say the 5 most important factors every financial advisor should be evaluating when it comes to the affiliations of their practice and broker dealer, RIA. And so that's why I asked you back today. And so today I really want to kind of lean into that, but let's just jump in. Let's start talking about what these all are. And so here's in somewhat of an order of importance. Let's start with some of the basics. So probably number 1, I would say for any advisor is when you're evaluating an affiliation, you need to make sure that there is control and flexibility. And when we talk about control and flexibility, let's talk about investment platforms. Do you have the freedom to choose your products, your custodians, planning tools that, best serve your clients? Do you have business model alignment with that firm? Can you operate your practice the ways that you want to, whether it's fee only, hybrid, commission based, advisor as money manager, the structure that you want, do you have the flexibility? And then brand autonomy. Are you able to market under your own brand, or are you required to become part of the family or the firm identity?
And have those 2 things not become a big thing here in the recent past as some of these big mergers and acquisitions are going on.
Well, and we've seen that too go in the other direction too. We see, a lot of advisors started out in the industry under some of the big wirehouse brands, and they left some because they wanted the freedom and the flexibility to be able to have their own brand identity, be able to create their own process identity for their clients. And so there's power in having a mothership, a big brand to hang over your door or on the door to your office. Mm-hmm. But I think the freedom, which is why most advisors got in this business, is for the flexibility of schedule, freedom, and the income, I think is important. So income is a good segue to probably the number 2, I would say, is compensation and economics. So, this is an important part of the, these are businesses, right? Payout structure, what percentages of revenue are you retaining? How transparent is it? Fee compression, hidden costs, what are the administrative fees, custodial, compliance fees? Are they eating into your margin? Weighed against what values are they bringing to you? So, hey, if you're going to charge me, that's fine, but how does that support me? And then here's a big one, especially with all the movement in the marketplace right now: transition assistance. Are there forgivable loans? Are there incentives? And here's the other key thing: when we talk about forgivable loans, there's the hidden gotchas in there. What strings are attached? Because sometimes I've heard some of these horror stories where, oh yeah, they gave me this check, but what was the element of it? What was the back end side of things that maybe I wasn't aware of? And then, how do they help me in that transition of my clients? So, that I would probably say is the next important compensation economics. And I guess tied to that with the economics, and I don't want to do a disservice here. Does the platform allow you to build value that you can eventually monetize?
Yeah.
When you make that transition, do you still own some or all of your business, or are you giving it all up? Now, look, I'm not saying that's necessarily bad. Some people are looking for an early exit, and so they're ready to basically hand over the keys. They'll stick around for a little bit, but that's more of a succession situation. What I were talking about is affiliation. If you're joining another organization. So then number 3, I would say, would be compliance and oversight. Now, let me be real careful right here. I've got some friends in the compliance department, and I just want to make sure that we say that we're all happy. And look, the thing with compliance is this, and understanding that when you're dealing with advisors that have client-facing responsibilities, sometimes there are issues that run counter to what compliance wants or needs you to do. What I would say is this: advisors need to look at compliance through this lens. If what compliance is asking you to do is to protect you and protect you from yourself, because sometimes we get out over our own skis,
True.
Then great. It's when you feel that it's working against the opportunity for you to continue to grow and develop your business, that's where, if it's so restrictive that you can't, that's an issue. But I would say most good compliance teams and oversight is designed in a sense to make sure that everybody can continue to do their business today and in the future without the opportunity for litigation, bigger regulation coming in. So, regulatory control, supervision, those things are all important when it comes to your business. So
I think some of that too goes hand in hand. You're right about compliance. I mean, goes hand in hand with what we're seeing in our industry: mergers, acquisitions, bigger, more advisors, all this. I mean, there's a reason for it. So
yeah, and I understand. In general, compliance runs counter to an financial advisor just because, hey, I built my own business. I want to be my own boss, and now I answer to somebody else. Well, you're not answering to someone else. You've got someone else that's protecting you because they're always looking out for, keeping you inside the guardrails so that you don't expose yourself to something that's going to get you.
Here's a little peek into the future of our little conversation here. And I'd say this about compliance. And again, it's funny because you do make me think about things and keep my pen handy and write stuff down. I think that's one of the traits of the big mothership, 30,000, 50,000, 100,000 advisors, and the smaller ship like what we have. Because I would say legitimately that our compliance team gets to know our advisors. Good, bad, or indifferent. I think it makes a difference. It's kind of hard to have a relationship with a compliance department that's trying to do that for 30,000. Call it what it is.
I love that you said that, Steve. It brings me back to a conversation I had with an advisor not too long ago where they were like, look, I can take a no from compliance if it's followed up with a why it's a no.
Yeah.
No without an explanation sometimes leaves people in the lurch. Yep. And the beauty of having a compliance team that you can get to know, they have the time to be able to have the conversation. It's not just a rubber stamp, nope, and then on to the next thing.
The other thing too about and I think this is true of our compliance team, it's that typically a compliance issue has something to do with another team or another department or something and so being able to collaborate there, a big deal, I think. So
I would say probably the number 4. So whereas we round out our top 5, I know you love the top 5 list, or maybe that's just me love the top 5 list. Top 10 would be technology and operations. And look, we are in an AI-driven industry, which actually kind of pivots back to compliance and how does compliance see AI. But when we're talking about technology and operations, it's now more than ever, practices are trying to operate more efficiently, leveraging technology. And so what does the tech stack look like? Do they have a CRM? Do they have portfolio management? Do they have trading? Do they have financial planning tools that integrate Do these things all talk to one another, or can they be? If they don't have direct integration, do they have a list of options of other tech solutions that you can bring into play?
Yeah.
Or do they partner with other industry, leading third parties that can bring best in class solutions to you? So tech stack support, operational support. So, technology operations, is there a back office support? Is there somebody that I can actually talk to on the phone, a real live person to help with account opening or billing or service or trading? Or if I've got an issue, will help stand in the gap with me to resolve these issues. And then lastly, when we think about technology and operations, client experience tools. Can you deliver a seamless modern experience for onboarding or reporting or communications? Yeah. Can I leverage text, to communicate with my clients? So technology and operations, I would say, was probably number 4 on my list when I think about the things when you're evaluating affiliations, either current or future, as far as importance. Yeah. But this brings us full circle to number 5, which leads me back to our previous conversation. We were talking about ideal life, and the 4th bullet from our ideal life or ideal practice, and that was your affiliation. Yeah. And what we actually started talking about on that end on affiliation is the one of this list that I think gets missed. Yeah. And it's the idea around growth and practice support. Does an affiliation, number 5, so growth and practice support, marketing and business development, does the firm, do they help you attract and retain clients through branding, lead gen, and event support? Do they provide practice management support? Are there coaching programs, succession planning, team building resources? Is there a cultural fit and an advisor community? Do you feel energized by the people and the leadership? Is there a long-term vision? Are you just another face in the crowd? Right. Yeah. And so I think, and self-servingly maybe a little bit, but I believe as a coach and a consultant, I think the 5th one, growth and practice support. And look, no disrespect, and I'm not devaluating the first 4, because look, compliance is important, technology is important, support and operations is important. Compensation, what do you get paid? Look, hey, it's business, so you got to get paid. Control and flexibility to run your business. All those things are important. What I would say is most entities have some or all of those. Yeah. They can check the boxes. Advisors, give them a punch list. They can check those. Growth and support is one of those things that I hear from advisors over and over again. This is an area that is usually where it's lacking. Yeah. And I know you believe strongly in this as well.
I do. And I think that it's something that you and I probably have talked about literally for 15 plus years, back to our previous life together when we were doing speaking and coaching in the early days. And we couldn't really foresee this coming, what our industry is today, although we probably should have. And I think that is in any industry, if merger and acquisition sort of gets out in front of itself. We talked in the last Rare about, that advisors will put on clients as they're growing their practice. And at some point they get to like, oh my gosh, I got these many clients, and how do I classify them? Who are my ideal clients? I think there's a certain element to that goes on in the industry today with this merger and acquisition thing. And both of us, I think, legitimately say, because we'd have to believe this to be a coach and a consultant that's worth a darn, and that is no model should be condemned. I mean, every model works for somebody. And you had mentioned here, and you spent some time on our last recording together about right fit. That's what it comes down to. But my thing is, it's crazy. Did you think I'd get human nature component into one of these? Here it is. Well, it's about questions. It's that simple. I think that, and I've said this too, and I'm sort of proud of this as I was building back in the early days of Advisor Protocol, and then working with you and Matt and Alan all these years, and then obviously our acquisition and becoming part of USA Financial, is that questions they're not enough. We talk all the time about the Socratic method, and one question leads to another. Sometimes the issue that you're trying to get to is 2 or 3 questions deep. The first question around transition, moving, you mentioned support, growth and support, has to come not from the advisor that's moving. It comes from us And I think we do a really good job of this. And there's no right or wrong answer. But the question that I like to ask, and we talk about the beginning with the end in mind. And you know what? This is an interesting industry. People retire from this industry, but typically they have to do something with the practice. If you're an airline pilot, and it's a guy that we're working at that's also an advisor, and if you're an airline pilot, you retire. If you're, in many industries, you retire. In this business, you're typically selling it. You're selling the thing in order to retire because of the nature of the business with clients and so forth. So beginning with the end in mind, I think we do a poor job as an industry of saying, what about first steps? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's that whole thing. Every journey starts with the first step. And so the question that we ask is thinking about your transition, your move, or thinking about staying. Mm-hmm. If you can accomplish one thing in a short amount of time, and typically we'll say 6 months, 9 months, 18 months. That's short time in our business, as you know. If you can accomplish one thing, not that gets you over the top or whatever, but that would make a difference in the next 6 or 9 months, what would that be? And I said that in our previous recording together, that question is always answered emphatically. Advisors always know there's one thing. Need to hire that next key person. We are too big. We don't have a classification process. Our, how we greet clients, our client service is all disjointed, whatever it might be. It's very specific. And then the question is, thank you for sharing that. What is your current affiliation, your current organization doing to facilitate and promote the growth there? It's pretty simple. And then just leave it. There's advisors. Their advisors say, "Oh, they're doing plenty. Yep, we're working on this. We're working on that. Fantastic." It generates a good conversation and a meaningful one because all the things those 4 things that lead up to, they're all part of growth and support, are they not? I mean, that's what it is. That's what compliance does. That's what tech does. It's all pointing to this direction. And you give me a very specific answer as an advisor, then I guarantee you that processes, tools, all those things are in place with a smaller organization that can focus that way.
Yeah, I think, and as we, through the lens of evaluating your affiliation, current or future, and you're checking that you got the punch list, you're checking the box of how do I get compensated, or if I'm transitioning this, or do I have control? All these things, those things are all important. But once you get past the initial, the growth and support, growth and practice support, because you got the operational support, which is the day-to-day stuff. But growth and practice support it's the long term.
Yeah.
It's you always talk about the 3 stages of a practice and they kind of overlap one to another. We talk about the acquisition, expansion, legacy, and succession.
Yeah.
And we've changed terminology on some of those a little bit over time, mm-hmm. but the whole idea is still there. Is at some point in your practice, you're on the growth mode, and then you get to another point where it's like I got to scale. I got to add staff. I got to expand. I got to do this. Really develop a business, and then eventually I got to start packaging this thing for what comes next.
Yeah.
The value of my life's work, and I think growth and practice support from an organization that can get boots on the ground and can walk hand in glove with you and have the time and energy and the resources to be able to do it on a personal level, not just, hey, here's some information and take it and run with it. Here's a book, read the book. Help you tailor something that evolves with your practice is rare.
Yeah. And here's the other thing too with that.
Rare.
Yeah, well done. Bravo. And thanks for coming. Yeah. And I just jotted this down too. The whole idea of the growth, expansion, legacy stuff. And I rail against this. I'm not saying to any advisor that's watching this, are you interested in our best practices without us knowing each other, without us asking any questions? That's what the first question is about. If you're trying to accomplish something in the next 6, 9 months, whatever it might be. And then further, and that's where I said this Socratic, let's have another question. You can't go, oh, you know what? We have a best practice. This is how we approach this situation. We've done it for thousands of advisors. We know it's going to work for you. It's ridiculous.
Right.
Are you in grow? Of course, we would agree that really never goes out of style. It's one of the overlap things. Or are you, as you said, scale? The next key employee, I have to identify my ideal clients. We're creating efficiencies, we're adding processes, all that kind of thing. And then
What
your
does
life's
my
work.
ideal practice look like?
Yeah. So that's, it's back to the whole asking questions, which I will say this without condemning any model. It is really difficult. It is really difficult for an organization that's in the tens of thousands of advisors to be able to ask questions of you that I want specific answers. Your practice, Aaron, and that's different than the next guy's practice. Let me ask you some questions about your practice that we can address, because we're small on purpose with all the tools, all the skills, all the processes, all of that. That's tough to do when you get to 30,000, 50,000, whatever. It's not about the model. It's about what you want. Here's one other thing that I did write down. You made me think of. We've talked about client classification, too many clients, right-sizing the practice. What's your perfect practice? You covered that really well in the previous Rare. If you missed that, it's really good. How does it feel? Whenever we ask, you and I are doing an event together, we ask, so your triple A's, your double A's, your B's, your C's, and I make a joke, don't I, when we're classifying, you're going to get rid of your C's. And people are like, oh, no way. They're foundational to. The question I would ask of a lot of advisors out there is, how do you feel about being a C now? How do you feel about being invisible now? How do you feel about being left behind now? Those aren't my words. Those are words that we're hearing. The way you feel about your C clients, we're not discarding them. It might be a one-to-many solution or what have you, but we honor those relationships. How many of you can make that emotional and mental and philosophical leap to go, oh my gosh, 15 years ago, I was that guy. And now, so again, perhaps a little overstated, but it's something that you have to think about. Mm-hmm. And to your point, Aaron, the right affiliation and who can facilitate and support the growth. So,
and speaking to the right fit, and you said it earlier, look, we're not saying, you're not saying that the models can't work.
Never.
It's about what is right for an individual advisor.
Yep.
If you want the personalized experience, you have to find the right affiliation that makes that.
Yeah. It could be as simple as this. I think any business, any industry, I think there are businesses that you and I have come across, advisors, that can get a little help or do some consulting, but are pretty much on cruise control. Got it figured out. Yeah. They're really doing, as you would say, they're doing things really, really well. They make a small tweak here or there. There's a lot of practices out there like that. And typically, those are the ones we see at the big monster shops, 30,000. If you are, and again, every time you say something, I jot it down, you make me think of something. If you're an advisor or a team that's looking to grow, that's not done yet, we're not on cruise control, we need the support, we need somebody to ask us the questions that we're not asking ourselves, then that model is not the right one. This one would be.
I think another thing, and you just made me think of this as well, Steve, so thank you, is having a voice.
Yeah.
So if you're a face in the crowd, you mentioned being a C client. If a C client goes to an advisor and is like, hey, there's something that's going on in your organization that I really need to change, or I need some help with, or whatever. Yeah. Well, we'll get right on that. If you're part of an organization where they have so many voices, how many can you listen to?
Yeah.
Right. And so do you really have a voice? Yep. And you may have control, but can you really get the time, energy, and attention that you really deserve? So again, it all comes back to, when you're evaluating affiliations, the 5 key things you need to look at are, if we go to the basics, it's make sure that you affiliate with an organization that gives you the control and flexibility that you desire. that compensation and economics align with the practice that you're trying to build. Compliance and oversight support your practice, but don't hinder it, and help you protect yourself and your clients for today and in the future. A technology and operations partner that provides you a tech stack that allows you to continue to develop into the future, and operational support that allows personalized attention and support, along with client experience tools to help better provide for your clients. But then ultimately, as we said, and a little as coaches and consultants, a little self-serving for us, but it's true. I mean, it just so happens that having a partner, an affiliation partner that has growth and practice management support that helps you not just grow your business, but build a practice that's designed around the ideal practice that you want to build, help you scale, help you hire, help you develop, and then help you get energized and build into a community and a leadership structure that is designed and aligned with your view of your organization, but also the future. So, so affiliation, it's not as easy as, hey, chasing a big check, and the check's important. We get it, but there's more to it. And so with that, Steve, I really appreciate you taking the time to join me again today.
Always enjoy it. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
And so for those of you who joined us again for another issue of the Rare Advisor, thank you for joining us today. If you like what you heard, like and subscribe. And as it's been said, when the why is clear, the how becomes easy. So never lose sight of your why.
This information is for licensed financial professionals only and is not intended for use in soliciting sales from the public. The views expressed represent the opinions of the presenter or their featured guest, not necessarily those of USA Financial or its affiliated subsidiaries. Industry references are generic and not intended to represent actions or beliefs of any individual or entity. Content is only presented to illustrate general principles, beliefs, or ideas and should not be construed as legal or regulatory advice. Trademark and copyright protected. USA Financial and Affiliates.